Hiya, guys, and welcome back to the Average Pundits podcast, your home of all things Premier League. Happy New Year for everyone. Happy new lockdown as well. If you're watching this, the UK has now officially been put into another lockdown, as I'm sure is definitely not news to everyone. But thankfully, Premier League football can resume. Maybe a little bit controversial. I'm not sure what you guys' opinions are. Leave it in the comments below. Social media. I'd love to know what you guys think. But the good news is we all still have top flight football to talk about, which is a relief. As always, I'm joined by Reese, and we got a very interesting topic today, Reese. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not. I mean, I would say that we don't rip on managers too often, but I think that's kind of our bread and butter. You guys are seen by the titles, you're seen by the thumbnail. It's time to rip into Chelsea a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of delve into the situation going on over at Chelsea. Currently, they sit in ninth in the Premier League, and they've just come off the back of a 3-1 loss to Manchester City in the Premier League. Things are not looking good for Frank Lampard at the moment. Obviously, Lampard's now been at Chelsea for a fair amount of time. Still relatively new in his managerial tenure, but he's been at Chelsea for long enough now. He brought in some signings in the summer, and currently they're sitting in ninth. I mean, early thoughts on Reece?
I don't think I understand with all the stuff with all the Chelsea signings. There was so much hype in the summer with Chelsea, and you're bringing in Timo, bringing in Kai, Ziyech being signed earlier on as well, like a pre-contract agreement. It's unbelievable, like the amount of signings that they had. You'd have thought that they got top four last year, didn't they?
Yeah,
With a transfer ban, and they brought in all these new players. And I kind of predicted this at the beginning of the season. It was kind of like they're either going to storm the league or they're not going to gel. They're not going to have any chemistry. I think it was like the first time that Ziyech and Havertz, maybe I think it was, were on the pitch at the same time.
mhm.
Um, it's just crazy. I mean, there isn't that big of a point differential between fourth and ninth as well. Chelsea are just kind of mellowing out. They're on 26. I think Leicester, Spurs, I think even Southampton and Everton are all on 29. So they're just behind Aston Villa on goal difference. I'm sure the 7-2 would probably help their case to stay above Chelsea. But yeah, they're 2 goals behind Aston Villa at the moment, and um, they're going to need a lot to catch up with the Leicester, Man United, Liverpool that are all in the top three at the moment. The rest are kind of they're 3 points behind. Spurs, and I mean, well, to be fair, they're on the same points as Aston Villa, yet they're 2 games in front. Villa
Yeah.
have 2 games in hand, so Villa could actually cause a bit of damage there. But yeah, a lot of disappointment there, and I think a lot of the players that Chelsea already had in the academy and in the club are shining as well, rather than these brand new shiny Gucci signings. The Reeboks are coming in and being over reliables.
Well, I mean, there was what six odd signings they brought in directly to try and make an influence into the Premier League, and so far, like you said, a few of those have been showing their talent, but maybe not quite hitting the mark just yet, which is something we will go on to. But it's interesting you're talking about the goals. I mean, currently Chelsea have scored 32 goals in the Premier League, 32 so far. And then if we're looking at clubs above that, I think Liverpool and United, Liverpool have got 37 with United scoring 33, Leicester with 31, and then Spurs and Villa are both with 29. And then City and Everton are at 24. So, the 32 goals from Chelsea, their goals are coming in essentially, but there's still some key areas where they are kind of lacking. One of those positions to kind of kick it off to talk about with is probably the goalkeeper spot. Edouard Mendy being brought in the summer for around 21 million, 21.6 million, coming in to replace Kepa, who was the world record signing for a goalkeeper. There's not too much else to really say. We just sit here ripping on Kepa. I mean, you could do that for a whole episode, couldn't you? But I mean, the guy has been muscled out of the first team. Edouard Mendy's come in, and at first it was looking, I think because the impact was the changing in keepers was so different. There was a couple of clean sheets to start on. I think he's managed 6 clean sheets so far in the Premier League. Edouard Mendy out of like 12 appearances, I believe. 12 appearances for Mendy. No, 13 rather. 13. Six clean sheets, 13 appearances. I'm not sure if he's the finished article. I think he's a quick fix for now. I mean, 21 million was, it's not the highest fee, but he was a relatively unknown keeper to a lot of people in the Premier League. Definitely shining a little bit over in France and showing some promise. But coming in hot and heavy and spending 21, 22 million on a keeper, you would expect them to come in and have a pretty instant impact. There are some clubs who have paid that money for secondary keepers, but obviously outmuscling a 75 odd million, 72 million, I think Kepa cost them. Outmuscling him coming into the first team, it's quite a statement, isn't it? I mean, I don't know if it shows a potential bit of turmoil over at the club. I mean, we saw issues with Kepa before with manager Maurizio Sarri, obviously famously refusing to come off the pitch, but Frank's managed to firmly cement him on the bench.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that kind of that struck the downward spiral of Kepa. They they bought him like the high £70 million mark. And I think they've lost about 60 million on his worth. I think they'd be happy to take 20 million for Kepa at this point. Um, and they've spent 20 million on a guy that's just about to turn 29. I know that the prime for keepers is a bit older than a lot of other players. They can go on from their prime until about 32, 33. I mean, how long's Gianluigi Buffon been on top of his game? So I think Edouard Mendy has a lot of room to grow, but he's not exactly a spring chicken. I think you need someone that is going to be able to grow into that position. Someone that is kind of young still, like maybe a 25-year-old keeper would have been a better backup option. There are a lot of other keepers out there, and I think Mendy was definitely a quick fix for this season until they can get to maybe the January transfer window and sign someone else. But that would be a bit of an insult to Mendy and not giving him a full season. So they might wait until the summer and see how it goes. But they might look for offers for Kepa. They might look for trade deals. They might look for like sort of a swap. Who is going to take Kepa Arrizabalaga right now? I don't know. Maybe he goes back to Spain and Chelsea find their new number one. But I think it was kind of a big mistake letting Courtois go. To be honest, like Real Madrid come knocking, but you don't want to be a feeder club at the end of the day. You don't want to be that club known for sending all your big players to Real Madrid. It's what Liverpool used to do with Felipe Coutinho. I mean, now that Coutinho doesn't look very good for Barcelona, but
I was going to say, I think Coutinho went to Barcelona, mate.
yeah, I mean, yeah, thinking about like feeding to
Yeah.
big clubs in Spain. Hazard's gone, Courtois gone, and ever since then, Chelsea have kind of been on a downward spiral because then they signed Pulisic, but then they went into a transfer ban, and it's kind of rocked them a lot. They did well with what they had. Tammy Abraham, it was like all of the young players wanted to prove themselves, and Timo Werner, Kai Havertz, Ziyech have all come in, and they kind of just been very lackluster at the moment because, to me, they don't look as hungry as Timo Werner doesn't look as hungry as Olivier Giroud at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the argument I think with Timo Werner, he came in and it was looking dead set. It was going to be Liverpool for a while, didn't it? There's definitely interest from, I think, Arsenal and United are also interested, but it looked like dead set going to Liverpool, but Chelsea took over the reins and arguably kind of underpaid for him. I think it was around 46, 45 million they paid for Werner. And I mean, people were expecting that to go way higher. So I think Chelsea got a very good player for a very good price. And obviously, we all know what Timo Werner can do. I think currently Timo Werner is sitting 17 appearances in the Premier League, 9 goal contributions, 4 of them goals, 5 assists. Not, lighting the world on fire as of yet, but we all know what he can do. And I think Chelsea do have themselves a fantastic player. They just need to work out what's the best system for him. And like you said, they signed enough players who can offer delivery, into the box in the summer. They've got enough options, and they've already had options at the club with players like Jorginho, Kovacic, Mason Mount. There's already people there which can do a job. But if we're looking at some of the new signings, Hakim Ziyech's come in, 8 appearances, 1 goal, 3 assists in the Premier League. Kai Havertz has come in, he's made 15 appearances, 1 goal, 3 assists in the Premier League. It's definitely not looking great. It's not looking great. But then you've also got, I think out of Chelsea's 32 goals, 17 goal contributions have been made by all of the new signings they brought in together. 10 goals have been scored by the new signings, and 4 of those have come from defence. with Ben Chilwell, 14 appearances in the league with 2 goals and 4 assists, and Thiago Silva scoring 2 goals himself. So I think that's quite a weird stat, isn't it? They signed all these players and they've contributed 10 goals and 4 of them come from the back line. And Chilwell, I think Chilwell especially has maybe not been slated, but I feel like he's been a little bit underplayed this season. Then maybe like, oh yeah, he doesn't look that good and everything. But I think Chilwell's had one of the better seasons out of all the Chelsea signings, and I think he's also going to be a very valuable player going forward. And Thiago Silva, at his age, coming into arguably the hardest league in the world from PSG, as a very competent side, but a very comfortable side in that league, and he's coming in looking like one of Chelsea's best players. So I think defensively, maybe Frank's got it right with the signings he's brought in. Maybe that defense does need a little bit more reworking. I mean, we've seen Kurt Zuma in pretty good form so far this season. I think he's got 4 goals himself in 15 appearances. So defensively, there's good goal contributions all over the pitch. Otherwise, they wouldn't have scored 32 goals. But these attacking players, what do you think it's going to take? Is it a case of they're still too early into their Premier League tenure, or do you think it's the tactics?
I think they came in with a lot of expectations. They had a lot of praise for them, especially Timo Werner. Timo Werner coming in, and everyone thought he was going to go to Liverpool. It was massive hype over the summer. Then goes to Chelsea, and they're like, oh my god, this is amazing! This amazing German striker who's been touted. He's been one of the top scorers in the Bundesliga for so many years. He's been lighting up, the Bundesliga. But when you think about it, he hasn't really lit when he was playing for Leipzig, he didn't really light up the Champions League too much, did he? When he was playing sort of English teams or teams outside of the Bundesliga, when it came to those sorts of matches, he kind of went missing.
I think I remember seeing Tottenham playing Leipzig in the Champions League, and it was always Timo Werner that was leading the betting odds and was leaving a lot of people on social media thinking, oh, Werner's going to score in this game, but he just wasn't making himself known on that pitch. It was other players. It was the Forsbergs, it was the Sabitzers on the pitch that were kind of making that effort. So I see what you mean. I do see what you mean.
Exactly. So the hype around Werner is kind of like he was prepared to face these. Oh, it's like, oh, I've never heard of Brighton. I haven't heard what's a Southampton, and he wasn't prepared to go against against the Vestergaards, against Lewis Dunk. He wasn't prepared to go against James Tarkowski and the Burnley backline that's so physical. And I think that's the mistake of the Bundesliga. It's not as physical. It's very dainty. You're known for your slick skills and your dribble moves, and I think that Timo Werner was expecting much more of that. I think that he was thinking that the Bundesliga is the best league in the world, which it could be said that it's the Premier League, absolutely. And yeah, you are going somewhere. There is something wrong going there when you've got less goals than an out of form Roberto Firmino.
Yeah, Roberto Firmino, definitely a topic to steer clear of. Otherwise, I know you could talk about it for ages. But it's interesting you mentioned with the Bundesliga as well. I mean, like you said, I think a lot of their play, I mean, a lot of goals go around in the Bundesliga, but maybe not as known for the rock hard kind of defenses. I think I saw the other day Bayern were 2-0 down to Mainz, then ended up winning the game 5-2. The goals just absolutely fine. No defense, just vibes, just goals all over the pitch.
See, sometimes I just watch the Bundesliga highlights just because there's so many goals in the games. Like, it's unbelievable how many goals are scored there because there's not a lot of defending that goes on. It's quite often I find myself going, how is that player so wide open? And I see where the goals come from because a lot of it is just working into the box and scoring.
Yeah.
But in the Premier League, you need a lot more than that.
I think it was January 1st. There was headlines going around saying that the Puskas goal of the year has already been scored on the 1st of January in the Bundesliga with the Lev. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it. I feel guilty. I forget the guy's name. He should be cemented on a sign, like rouletting like 2 defenders and then backheeling it through the keeper's legs. I couldn't believe it. I think it was a Turkish striker. Over in Leverkusen. But slight side note, but go and watch that goal. It is ridiculous. But that could explain some of the reasons why Timo Werner is struggling. I mean, we did see his first kind of post-match press conference, which Frank made him go out and do, and he was saying, he wasn't really expecting the Premier League to be so physical. And we've seen this for a couple of other signings in the Premier League. I mean, it was Donny van der Beek after, I believe it was a game in the League Cup. It might not have even been the Prem. It could have been the League Cup, but it was against an English opposition. And then after the game, he went on to Instagram and took a picture of a very swollen ankle and put "Welcome to the Premier League," which made me chuckle a bit because I'm thinking, yeah, I don't know if the Premier League like standard of just no nonsense tackling was happening over in Holland. But yeah, like you said, the Premier League defenses are certainly a lot more brutal. And if we go back talking about the man at the helm, Frank Lampard, obviously we've mentioned this before on the podcast of the culture of signing club legends and making it quite hard to see them go. You know, if there's a former player for the club who offered so much, it can be very hard to kind of see them be shown the exit door. I mean, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's constantly touted on the will he not be sacked. I mean, he currently sits in joint first in the Premier League. And then you've got players like Mikel Arteta, who have been having an awful run at Arsenal and then potentially recently maybe showing a little bit more form. It's very difficult. And when the difficult decision comes, Frank Lampard is probably Chelsea's greatest ever player. You know, the only other real player in that conversation is probably John Terry, in my opinion. And, you know, Frank Lampard, he's Chelsea through and through. He wanted that job and he said he was ready for that job. Seeing him shown the exit door could be heartbreaking. I think it was Jamie Carragher the other day who said on Sky Sports, I'd love to see Frank with this team in 10 years' time, with 10 years of experience under his belt with this Chelsea team. You reckon he would be fantastic? And it's hard to agree with him. I mean, do you think he was thrown into that job too early?
I think he was thrust into the limelight a bit too early. But then again, Abramovich, he does make a lot of really good managerial appointments. I mean, he was the one that decided to bring in Jose Mourinho. He was the one that allowed, Di Matteo to come in and win the Champions League. Like, that was his call. And Abramovich definitely, he had to have had faith in Lampard. He saw what he did at Derby, and I think that Lampard could have got Derby promoted before he was thrust away and led to Chelsea. But then again, you look at what Lampard did at in his first season at Chelsea. No transfer budget. The only player that was brought in was Pulisic before the transfer ban, and you kind of see, like, he was great because he had players that wanted to put their bodies on the line for him and make sure that he stayed within a job. Like Tammy Abraham had a fantastic season. A lot of Kante had a really good season as well. Their back line was, Kepa was not the best, and that's kind of what started spiraling. But he had a team that did, Callum Hudson-Odoi, who came on and scored the only goal for Chelsea the other day, also played really well under Frank Lampard in that first season. So he had a lot of players that were willing to be fantastic, and yet this season he's been able to go out and spend and spend and spend, and it seems like only a handful of players want to actually, go out and wear the badge for Frank Lampard. It seems like he might have maybe lost the dressing room.
Yeah. Well, last season, I mean, the ending to last season was it was very dicey, wasn't it? It was kind of United, Chelsea, and Leicester all kind of fighting out for those third and fourth positions. So it was definitely an exciting end to the season. But like you said, I think he maybe overexceeded. Obviously, when you're at a big club like Chelsea, you instantly expect results straight away. But a transfer ban, it can't be underestimated, can it? Especially when all other clubs, they know areas they need to improve on, and they're working hard to make those improvements. And if Chelsea can't, so maybe that was the reason why they went so kind of heavy in the summer. Because I think it was £223.38 million was spent in the summer, around that figure. And it's an awful lot of money, but it wasn't even like the players they were signing were relative unknowns, maybe with the exception of Edouard Mendy, if you're not too familiar with your French football. But Timo Werner, Hakim Ziyech, Kai Havertz, that's one player that definitely hasn't come into his own at Chelsea yet. 15 appearances, 1 goal and 3 assists, 75.2 million or 72 million, I think. He was around 72.
Something around that, yeah.
A huge fee. And then again, the clubs which were throwing the names around from which I saw links to were Liverpool, were Arsenal, and were Bayern Munich. And Bayern Munich, a lot of the time when you think of German players leaving the Bundesliga, it's kind of a straight, like, yeah, you could go to Bayern straight away right now and just fit in. I think Timo Werner would have done that, but obviously you already have Robert Lewandowski, so Bayern might not have been the best location for it. But Kai Havertz, they could have potentially have done with Kai Havertz Bayern, but what's the Bayern's loss is Chelsea's gain, and like you said before, maybe it is too early. Maybe we have more to see from these players because we know they can do it. I mean, Havertz was I think he was impressing in the Champions League and he was impressing in the Bundesliga last season. But so far, really quite he's kind of been fighting with Mason Mount in that position.
Yeah, I think Havertz is kind of a bit of a hit or miss player. Last season I think he was about 31 appearances in the Bundesliga. I think he scored 12 goals and got 6 assists. And a lot of those, I mean, I'm not too sure where Frank has been playing him, whether it's been an attacking midfield position or whether it's been in the centre, playing alongside Kante and playing a flat 3 in the midfield. But a lot of where Havertz's creativity came from last year in the Bundesliga was from a shadow striker role in the central forward position, like just behind the striker, or in fact in the right wing position. He played a lot of games at the right wing position, scored a lot of goals. I remember he scored, I think, 2 games back to back. He had a brace, one against Werder Bremen and one against Mönchengladbach, and he scored 2, all from the centre forward position. And I think that there is a lot of, he doesn't fit the mold of a striker for the Premier League, and that's why he should probably play, sort of, I've mentioned this guy before, Felipe Coutinho, like sort of the shorter player, very good at dribbling the ball, very good at shooting the ball. I think that's where he's going to have to learn his craft and try and shoot from range, shoot from, outside the box, curlers, whipping it into the far corners and using that really deadly left foot that he was able to use 12 times last season in the Bundesliga.
Yeah. Here's a question for you. Obviously, big price tag for Kai Havertz coming in. Obviously, and a lot of other players signed. Kai Havertz, like you said, playing mainly a central position, whether that's kind of pushing forward into the central forward or just sitting behind in the 10 role, occasionally going off to the right, but predominantly in the centre, occasionally even sometimes pushing back into the midfield. When you sign a player for a huge fee like that, become like a marquee signing coming into your club, for that kind of fee, do you feel like your team should instantly be built around that player? Because Chelsea were an already established team with players all around the pitch, but then also when you think about it, like Mason Mount's already in that role. You've already got players at Chelsea like Jorginho, Kovacic, Ross Barkley, who all offer stuff into the midfield. Hakim Ziyech is naturally recognised as a 10, but is now mainly playing as a wider player. So many players in this role, but do you feel like Kai Havertz should have been brought in, solidified in that team, and it's like, right, we're building the team around you?
Yeah, you got to get him service. I mean, you look at other teams that made marquee signings. Let's go for the first ever massive transfer. You go for Cristiano Ronaldo at Real Madrid. That team was instantly built around him. He had a little bit of a shaky first start, but I mean the team was then built around him. He got the service he provided. He got provided a load of assists, and he went full on at Real Madrid. And he's arguably that was probably some of his best moments at in his career. You look at Liverpool when they got Van Dijk, the defense was then built around him. You get another, he's the ball playing midfielder. You get him to sit back, and the rest of the defense will do their work as well. And then you've also got the midfield there as well. Man United, they bought in Martial. He kind of had a pretty good first season. He got the service he was provided. He was then implemented straight into that team. I know that a lot of kind of a bit to be desired after that. But a lot of marquee players are given that provide given the system to thrive in. I think when you make a sign like Kai Havertz, you should be giving him the reins of what he wants to do. You
Yeah.
should make him feel as comfortable as possible, like from the get go, and allowing him to be that. Ask him what position do you want to play, what number do you want to wear, who do you want to play with, who do you feel comfortable playing with. I mean, the 2 Germans at the moment in there, Timo and Kai, they should be instantly linking up. Whether he wants to overlap over Timo, and we could, if there was that much of a collaboration between the 2 marquee German signings, Timo and Kai Havertz, if they would have been made the sole focus of building this team instead of just, I mean, I know that they got Ziyech straight away, and I think they might regret that signing. If I'm being honest, I would at this point, because yes, he was great for Ajax, but I don't think he fits the Chelsea mould in the slightest. And plus, if they were going to spend 70 million on Kai Havertz anyways, what was the point of bringing Ziyech in, a guy that plays the same position, and ruin something that worked last season with bringing in too many players?
Yeah.
And Kai Havertz and Timo Werner, if they would have set them as the goals in January and use them, push them into the team, be like, look, you guys do what you do. I think we could have been looking at a potential Son and Kane pairing, sort of. Everyone gets assists, everyone gets goals out of those two, and Chelsea could be thriving in the top four right now.
Yeah, on paper, I don't disagree. I think it could have been a really deadly duo, rather, if implemented properly. But if we go back to talking about Timo Werner, we already mentioned it. So currently at the moment, Timo Werner is looking at 17 appearances, 4 goals, 5 assists. His striking rivals within Chelsea are Tammy Abraham, who's made 14 appearances for Chelsea, 6 goals and 2 assists, and Olivier Giroud, who's made 9, and he scored 3 goals and registered no assists so far. So the other strikers at the club do have, like stats on the doors. Essentially, they do have things to reference. At the moment, maybe Timo Werner isn't working out. Let's say it's not happening. Does it undermine the signings Frank's made? Does it undermine the Chelsea board to drop Timo Werner and bring in the players which are in form? Because a lot of people have been saying, a lot of the way Chelsea have been playing, they're really missing out on that Olivier Giroud type striker, because Giroud is definitely one of a kind, I think. He is very unique. It's taken me a very long time to appreciate Giroud, definitely as he's got older as a player. When he moved to Chelsea as well, I was very interested to see his journey, because I think a lot of the time at Arsenal, he was very underappreciated. I think at Chelsea, he's kind of come into his own. He's a very unique striker, which offers you something very different. And I don't think there's any reason, even at his age now, I think he's like 32, 33, he could be starting. He could be starting at a Premier League club. And why not Chelsea? But do you think it would be a huge mistake, really undermining, to drop him and instantly start playing the informed Tammy Abraham or the informed Giroud?
I think that maybe they've got to go for a reshuffle of formation, to be honest. I think that it would be a shame to get Timo Werner and not have him in the squad, because you spent £50 million on a German striker that's been highlighted through the press and he's got this much hype. You don't exactly want to push him to the sidelines. Yeah, he might not work for the first season, but play him alongside another striker. Play him alongside Tammy. Give him someone to play with. Maybe you have the two up front and then Kai behind. Bring Giroud on if one of them gets tired. You got to rotate, yeah, but I don't think they should drop Timo from the squad. I think maybe for a game or two and see if either Tammy or Giroud can pull out something magical. And if not, then Timo's the one to go with Tammy or Giroud. I think that would be great, because Tammy he's a great player to stay in the box. He's a target man. He's a poacher. And Timo Werner can run in behind the defence and use his pace. So I think that there needs to be a bit more teamwork within the attack of Chelsea. I think that Chelsea need a lot more communication with their attack. Christian Pulisic is there at the moment. I don't think he's providing the quality chances that need to be there. I mean, Hudson-Odoi came on and he provided a goal, and I think that Hudson-Odoi could definitely be that guy to play on the left and provide that. If Tammy doesn't get a ball or it gets saved, Timo's there as well to get the rebound, and vice versa. I think Timo just needs a strike partner. If I'm being honest, they need to play two up top.
Yeah, it's definitely, the evidence is there, and it's something we'll have to see in the next 3 fixtures Chelsea have got in the Premier League. They've got Fulham next, Leicester after that, and Wolves. So games which could be quite testing for Chelsea, especially Leicester and Wolves. But even Fulham away, that Chelsea have got next, and even Fulham have been showing a little bit more of a return to form under Scott Parker, getting points off of Liverpool. They're starting to look maybe a little bit like there might be a little bit of fight in them. We'll have to see where that goes. But I want to end this, Reese, with asking you the question: does Frank Lampard deserve to be sacked? Will Frank Lampard get sacked? Who's there to come in?
Um,
A tough question.
yeah, they are. Frank Lampard, in my opinion, doesn't deserve to be sacked. I don't think he should get sacked, because it's like what I've been saying about Ollie as well. Like, he needs time. he needs time to grow with the squad. He needs time to gain the respect he deserves, and whether it takes, I mean, Chelsea finished ninth before as well. In that season where they stopped Spurs from winning the league title and allowed Leicester to win. They finished horribly that season, and it's happened before with Chelsea. They just need to fight back next season and come back even stronger. They don't necessarily need to make any signings next season, because if they allow their players to play in form, they get Timo Werner's confidence up, Kai's confidence up. Maybe move Ziyech on if he doesn't work out this season, and they might be able to get back to their form and have these players that have got bags of confidence. They will feel like new signings,
Yeah.
because they haven't been used properly. And I think Frank just needs to understand his players a bit more, and maybe needs to just learn on the job. Sometimes the best ways to learn are being pushed into the spotlight. And I think Frank Lampard is either gonna, he's either gonna crumble, and maybe give him another 2 seasons. And if it doesn't work out, the project Lampard is over. He can go back to managing Derby, or he can go back to managing whatever club that he wants. And it's going to be a massive shame for him, because everyone loves to see club legends succeed as managers. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he's not the most iconic Manchester United name when you think about it, but this season he's doing a great job. Let's be honest. And it was earlier on this season that we were all calling for Ole, but he's only 3 points behind, fourth. Let's just face it. Frank Lampard's only 3 points behind fourth, and there is still half a season to play. So why not give him the rest of the season? If Abramovich is anything to go by, he does have a case for prematurely sacking managers. But I think that Abramovich, it's a smart decision to keep Lampard there. It keeps him respectful, and it stops what Manchester United have been so guilty of, and having managers and just jumping to managers, and it kind of messes with the players' heads a bit and the tactics of the team. So, yeah, I think for me, Lampard stays. What about you?
I think it's a tough one because definitely they're underperforming. There's no doubt about that. But I feel like this is one of the weirdest Premier League seasons we will ever see. It's coming off the back of last year, which was, again, arguably the weirdest Premier League season you'll ever see. And the one right after is definitely going to rival it, obviously, with fans in and out of clubs, in and out of grounds, rather. We're back in another lockdown. Definitely the environment for football has completely changed. And when fans come back in, the environment of football is going to be changed as well. It's going to take players a while to get back to used to having fans. I'm sure they've missed them, but it will be an adjustment. And I think every club right now has had to make so many other adjustments on and off the pitch in their lives. And right now it's definitely a weird season. And I feel like it's anyone's season as well. Anything could happen right now. Before, I think at the start of this season, when we did our Premier League predictions, I predicted City to do it. I think a lot of people predicted Liverpool. I think it was either Liverpool or City. Right now, Liverpool are out of form. City are teetering in and out of form. United are in a lot better form. Who knows what's going to happen? But in terms of Chelsea, currently sitting in ninth, I feel like it would be a shame for them to sack Lampard. We'll have to see these next three fixtures which come about. If Chelsea aren't getting the results and if they're dropping points, I could maybe understand a little bit of why that decision's been chosen to be made. But as you said, it would be a shame to see him go. He's in the role now. It's definitely too early. I think I'd agree there. Only one job before at Derby. I think it was too early, but he's in the role now. I think Chelsea should stick with it, see what happens. They've got the players, they've got the talent. They can hopefully turn something out of it. And I think Chelsea could be a very interesting team to watch in the weeks to come. And we will obviously be covering all of the major football news regarding Chelsea and other Premier League clubs going forward into the new year. Thank you, everybody, for watching or listening to this podcast today. Thank you for an amazing 2020. Fantastic 2020. So many different milestones that we've, achieved and met. So many interesting episodes, great guests, great content. And we want to keep that coming, with more and more variety, more and more options. We're going to work hard to keep making sure the Pundits is as good as it can be. I think we're in for a good year, Reece.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we did last year, with the pandemic, we sort of we evolved with the time. We had a little, we had a short break, and then we came back with the Newcastle video, and people loved it. The support recently has been crazy. We just hit 200 views on the last podcast that we did, the team of the year. So thank you to everyone that watched that and supported that. Thank you to everyone that's watched this right now on YouTube or listen to it at the moment. You can download us and listen to us on the go anywhere on Spotify or Apple Music. And it's just been a really crazy time, and hopefully we continue this momentum into 2021. And again, if things have to evolve, we have to evolve with the times, and we're always about improving. And hopefully we can have some football to talk about. And football's it's not going to be the same. Everything's affecting it. The pandemic's affecting it. The UK's current trade deals and stuff like that are going to be affecting stuff with us leaving the European Union. So we'll just have to see where everything goes. But I'm excited for anything that happens. So viva la pundits.
Viva the Pundits, indeed. If you want to get a hold of us to come on the podcast, you can always email us at theaveragepundits@outlook.com. We have Twitter, we have Instagram. On Twitter, we are Pundits Average, and at Instagram and Facebook, we are The Average Pundits. Please leave a like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. We want to keep that momentum going. And if you're listening to us on your streaming services, please give us a follow. And thank you very much. Have a happy New Year, everybody, and we will see you next time.